it is apparently realistic to expect a salary of 1 crore as a corporate lawyer.
The role of legal professional is starting to resemble more and more of what we have seen in American corporate setup.
So we think that this discussion is very important, and why should we have it now?
A tier 1 law firm or a highly coveted litigation office is not the only option.
So therefore, anybody who's about to graduate from law school must be able to think like a lawyer, work like a lawyer, and consequentially apply for these roles. Why is that not the case?
This knowledge, this insight is golden for law students who are preparing for their career.
Exactly the reason why we've been having these long-term discussions on what to do with legally wired.
So in 2025, it is apparently realistic for a 10-year PQE to expect a salary of 1 crore as an in-house counsel in Bangalore. And to my mind, that's crazy, but that's the reality of the market that we live in. And with the way business is changing, the number of opportunities that lawyers are getting are plenty, and they no longer do this traditional role of either litigation or just transactional work. There are new roles in the market. With new tech, there's obviously new roles. And it's interesting because the question that a lot of youngsters in law school must have, if they are aspirational, is how do we get to that number soon? And I think we started Legally Wired to solve that problem for young lawyers today, so that they can get to that number soon. So welcome to Legally Wired, everyone. You're going to get access to a lot of pearls of wisdom, which is going to help you access great salaries very soon.
It's not only the astounding salaries that we are seeing in the market today. The role of legal professional is starting to resemble more and more of what we have seen in American corporate setups, right? These kind of salaries were only heard of at partner levels at law firms so far. But I think the last 4 years, this change has spilt over where even corporates demand highly qualified, experienced, and brilliant lawyers to head their legal functions, because they don't want to be going back to law firms for every small thing. And the exposure that corporates have today to the international market also demands highly experienced lawyers like this. And this is exactly why we've been discussing doing Legally Wired over the last few months, because this knowledge, this insight is golden for law students who are preparing for their career and strategizing what exactly they want to see themselves in the future.
Just to add, for the benefit of our audience, these 1 crore paychecks that we're talking about have nothing to do with where you graduated from law school and what your background is. As long as you have sound skills, you can compete for these opportunities. And I think that's a very important point that our audience must know.
Also, the roles itself for the legal professionals, right? That's evolving at a very fast pace. Like just the other day, I was seeing the hiring that is increasing for the function of head of public policy. These are lawyers. These are department heads with a background in law. They are practicing lawyers who have transitioned to a role in public policy. Again, in India, these roles are picking up, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for law students to look beyond the traditional paths that was available and in abundance when you and I graduate.
Before our audience starts to build castles in the air, it is very important that you need to pick up the requisite skills. You need to be a skilled profession, and you need consistent practical training, and you need to find avenues or careers that help you build and hone your experience.
That's exactly why we are having this discussion and what we aim to do with Legally Wired, to share these insights and industry developments that lawyers need to know.
What is an incentive to even have this discussion? Why do we think that this discussion is very important, and why should we have it now?
That I guess goes to answer the question on what is the changing landscape that we're referring to. So, one, with the number of lawyers that are graduating every year, they're increasing, and the demand for new lawyers in the traditional legal jobs is not as much. And two, with the advent of AI and the adoption of AI slowly across legal workflows, there is going to be a significant change in the way the career of a young lawyer is going to be shaped going forward. And the straitjacket approach that you and I probably would have taken when we just set out is not going to work. And I'm not sure if all law students and young lawyers are aware about this impending change.
So I agree with you on everything except one thing, where you said the demand for the traditional lawyer, right? I still think that there will be a demand for the traditional lawyer. They'll still have access to their jobs that they currently have, but they would be expected to have a lot more skills than they were traditionally expected to show up at a law firm with. And that is very important. That is an important insight for a lot of students who are in law school, and also those who've just graduated and have managed to scrap a job elsewhere. If you want to move up the ladder, you will find opportunities. We're not saying you won't get opportunities, but the expectation setting is going to be a lot more higher in terms of what it was. Do you agree on that?
I agree in terms of, yes, the expectation is going to be very different and a lot higher for new lawyers. But I also see, when I graduated, I studied at Christ University, and there were about 300 to 400 people in our batch. And I just see that number going up. But the number of jobs that are out there is pretty much the constant. So if you are still focused on having that traditional legal career where you're applying to law firms or litigation offices, there is definitely going to be a higher competition for these jobs. And what students and young lawyers are missing out is that these are not the only options that are available out there for a lawyer today. There are a lot of newer opportunities, especially with legal tech, lawyers directly freelancing and consulting clients out of India. So these opportunities, I'm not sure that everyone is aware and is pursuing them to the extent that it can be explored.
I mean, a key question is who is eligible for these opportunities. Do you think that somebody who goes to a traditional law school, say a Christ, even a national law school, Bangalore, which is the best law school and undoubtedly the best law school in this country. So do you think anybody who goes to these law schools are eligible for these opportunities, or is there only a few students? So, like, who is eligible?
I don't think it matters anymore which law school that you go to, as long as you are developing the skill set, you're able to showcase that you have the ability to take on these jobs. That element of qualification in terms of brand value of a law school is going down, especially if you're going for these non-traditional roles that I'm talking about. So who's eligible really depends on who has spotted that opportunity, has worked up their skill set to be able to apply to these opportunities, and worked on it. But I need to caveat that to say that it might not be suited for everyone who's graduating on day one. They might still have to, do some kind of grunt work and understand the actual realities of working as a lawyer before they can actually make the switch. But the point being, a tier one law firm or a highly coveted litigation office is not the only options in a long term planning for a legal career.
I think it's fair for anyone who's going to law school to expect that by the time they graduate from law school, they are trained to think like a lawyer, operate like a lawyer, and have an understanding of the work products that are core for any practice area. I mean, if you're paying all this tuition fees to go to law school, that's a fair expectation in my view. But unfortunately, that's not the case, right? They go to law school and largely they get a very academic background. They have internship inculcated into their curriculum, but you have to understand that it's 2 months out of 12 months. So how much of practical knowledge are you really getting? In my view, not much. What is your take on this?
Definitely, I agree that there has to be a change. And firstly, the internship, even though it is just 2 months in a year, the internship programs in India are not thought through and designed as a exercise for incoming interns. It's more like interns land up in a law office, and if there is work and if there is delegatable work, then there is work. Otherwise, interns are just sitting around, and it's very context lacking kind of work that an intern gets, which is not just enough to get the practical experience. And out of that is just 2 months in a year. One thing I feel is very important for law students to be able to read statutes, read case laws, and understand them, which is what law schools end up doing from year 1 to year 5. But that is not the only skill that is required, right? And that is where I feel it is lacking. What should ideally happen, in my view, is that probably the first year and the second year of a law school, you have this handholding where your professors are teaching you how to read a bare act, teaching you how to read a case law. But after that, you are supposed to graduate and be able to read those statutes yourself from third year onwards. And the focus of the law school should shift to all these other skills that you were referring to, so that they have the skill set to understand the practical realities of being a lawyer, to understand some of the deliverables, to understand different kinds of drafting styles, which is what is lacking today. And it ends up being an academic exercise from year 1 to year 5, which is great if there are law students that are looking for a career in academics, but that is just a minority of law students who choose that path. It's mostly people who get absorbed into the workforce, and they're walking out there without these skills. So what I think that law students today should recognize is that these skills are seriously lacking, and they cannot depend on the law school to beat it into them, and they should take an active interest and initiative to build these skills themselves.
Yeah, I've never been to a lecture for contracts where a professor came with a contract and said, let's analyze this contract and let me teach you how to understand what the issues that you must capture depending upon whom you represent. And for litigation, at least you do have moot courts, and you do have, there's some level of practical application of law, but nobody's actually actively teaching you how do you make these filings in a court, and at what stage what filing should be made, strategies, litigation strategy. Just to give you an example, I referred a relative to a lawyer that I knew to file an appeal on an arbitration matter, and he just filed an appeal and he lost because it was a time barred appeal, and he was trying to appeal to the court on the fact that the appeal should be allowed on grounds of justice and fair play. But see, and that's strategy, right? That's an important. And then I recommended another lawyer for the same relative, and this other lawyer, he took a Consumer Protection Act angle, and he made he was able to get some kind of a remedy and get both the parties to the negotiation table. So this is strategy. It's not just about following the rule book. It's about thinking out of the box also. And I don't think they do these kind of exercises. And I don't think a moot court in itself is enough to, get you there in terms of strategy. You will be able to make arguments, but how much can you think from how to achieve your client's objectives? So, and I think law schools would be a lot more fun if the education was more, geared in that direction. In fact, one of the reasons why we had discussed to start Legally Wired is to create a platform where students have a chance to access this alternative education. And what I mean by alternative education is a chance to understand a practice area, the basics of a practice area, because they're completely different from academia, point one. And also to explore the work products that are normally there. If they go through this process, the biggest advantage that they would have is that they would have these new age opportunities accessible right out of law school, rather than going out into the market, practicing for a couple of years and then figuring things out.
That sounds about right. I have a very specific question for you. So, what we're essentially saying is that the skill set that is being taught at law schools today is not probably what the market demands. And two, there are a lot of these varied opportunities that law students can pursue, which they may not be aware of. So, why do you think that you and I are the best people to advise someone on this?
See, one is, and I'll speak for the both of us here. Between the both of us, we have around nearly 20 years of work experience, and both of us have climbed up the ladder. We've worked our way up from, no-name law firms that are not well known in the market. And we've gone to a tier one law firm. In my case, Ketan. In your case, you've gone to Indus. And then we've transitioned to in-house roles. And in all this time, we've seen different youngsters, young practitioners, and we've seen the reason why they don't grow in the profession, the reason they give up. We've always seen a lot of people who say, I'm not interested. I can't do this anymore, right? And the reason is they don't have the right skills. It's a combination of not just knowledge of law, but also etiquette at the workplace, which is a lot more easier to learn on the job. So we've been able to formulate an idea of who's likely to be a success and who's not likely to be a success. And that's where we're coming from, right? When we give this advice, we're coming from a place that, okay, everyone should have a good first chance to make it happen for them, irrespective of their circumstances or their surroundings or their workplace, right? So we bring those insights from our workplace to help people do better.
Yeah, and an added aspect that I can think of is the fact that our exposure personally, in terms of having worked very closely with US and UK lawyers, has given us a lot of insight into the fact that Indian lawyers are not far off in terms of servicing US and UK clients directly, especially since the principles and the common law roots is very similar. And in our experience, we've also seen that there are these lawyers that have taken the leap and pursued really different careers from what is considered as a traditional path out there. And they've made it very well for themselves. And there's a lot of misconception in terms of the career opportunities that is out there, which I think is another aspect that you and I are interested in addressing. Like, for example, there is a misconception that law firms today are the highest paying job opportunities that are there for lawyers. But that's not the case. There are several ways to look at the salary components that a law firm offers versus what can be possible if you're freelancing. And students really need to know this. Young lawyers really need to know this so that they choose the best for their career.
Have you freelanced?
Well, not full time, but I do have a couple of clients that I've worked with, especially between jobs. And there are a few friends and clients that come back to me for work now and then because I have that working relationship. Basically, what I mean to say is that I have an idea on what this opportunity holds and what is the possibility if I choose to pursue this full time.
So I have freelanced in the past, and it's quite lucrative, contrary to popular belief. There was a time during COVID when I was between jobs, and my wife's roommate, she offered me an engagement. She was a consultant EY Partnon, and she was representing ETS on an engagement, and ETS wanted a memo on how to set up shop in India and possibly how much they would pay in taxes if they set up a shop in India. Guess how much they paid?
Go ahead, share the meaty details.
I was paid 8 lakhs. Straightforward research. I took 4 days to finish it, and that was good money that I made. So freelancing does have opportunities. I think I got that opportunity because by the time I got it, I already had a lot of work experience. And the person giving me that matter also knew somewhere that I could execute a task like this. So when you think of freelancing, it's not just enough to be like, okay, I can go into Fiverr and Upwork and bid for projects and do anything. You need to have that experience to be able to confidently execute.
And another thought that I had, and something that I've been pondering on for a while, is that with the development of AI, it's just all the more possible for lawyers to independently have like a full working practice with very minimal teams that are team support that they have. Like today, if you look at a traditional law firm, it's a pyramid, right? You have like the bottommost, your first year and second year associates, that just tapers up to probably a single partner. And that structure is no longer required with the possibilities that we are seeing with the use of AI. So this is another aspect in terms of what we're talking about, the changing landscape. What are your views? This is definitely a much more detailed conversation, but what are your insights in the development of AI and the changing nature of legal professions?
So thanks for that question. I say thanks because it is an interesting question to introspect. So if you are in practice today, there are so many companies that are trying to leverage AI to make clerical work be done in like minutes, right? But they're not successful. And we've seen a lot of demos. We've looked at a lot of companies that say that we'll generate a contract for you, we'll identify the issues that you normally identify. They just don't work, these tools. They probably work. Have you noticed, like, we've gone to so many of these demos and we have some of these tools at our disposal in office. No one ever uses them because they are inconvenient. They haven't been well built yet. So there is a lot of time for these tools to develop, and there's a lot of space, and there's a lot of opportunities. But the thing that I'm more excited about is the ability to learn law better with these AI tools. Because what AI does really well is it understands instructions in English. It can extrapolate English, break down concepts into very simpler ideas for you to grasp. And it gives you an opportunity to learn anything. Another interesting example, my wife, she's a trade lawyer at ELB, and randomly I asked her to give me an investigation or some kind of a case law in her field for me to understand. And she gave me an anti-dumping investigation, which was initiated by Pirimal Pharma. And it had a lot of complex concepts that I didn't naturally get. I used AI to break these ideas down into a lot more simpler ideas. I specifically use an instruction to ask AI to explain these concepts to me as if I was 13 years old. So it breaks it down even more finer. And my wife, she was very surprised when I explained that entire investigation piece to her. And she was in fact impressed that me, someone who didn't have any knowledge of trade law, was able to gain that much insight. See, you must discount the fact that I did international trade law as a law student, and I understand the debate is largely around whether products are like products or not. That much even I also know. But I was able to gather a lot more insight than that.
I agree with you in terms of where the tools are right now, because they profess that they can, the way most of the legal tech tools that are out there, they profess that they can replace an actual full functioning lawyer, which I don't think is the case. But like you just mentioned, right, you without having any
Did you have someone from business who wanted to test you on this, who thought that one of these tools could actually replace a full-fledged lawyer?
Yes, that is right. So just to recount that incident, I think so. Business makes the error that they don't appreciate the context-specific feedback that an AI tool requires today to give you the quality output that a lawyer would. So what business looks at is that I can see a chat GPT reviewing a NDA, and the output looks similar to what a lawyer would give me. But they're just looking at the actual issues that GPT has probably identified without appreciating the fact that there was no context that was given to GPT in the review. Like, for example, if a clause, if there is an onerous post-termination obligation in terms of the confidentiality, I would never accept it if it was just a normal vendor. Like, why do you need me to protect your and maintain my security systems for a 5-year period after termination? As opposed to when that data is shared in terms of when there's sensitive financial information that is shared for an M&A opportunity. These are apples and oranges. Right? So unless ChatGPT appreciates this context, it's not going to be able to give an output that an actual lawyer would. And this is where, coming back to my point, that the tools are professing that they can replace a lawyer today, which I don't believe is the case. But like you were saying in the example that you were giving, where without actual active experience in trade law, you were able to digest and dissect and appreciate the case law and the research that your wife gave you, which would have gone to a third year or a fourth year associate. And this is what necessitates that pyramid structure in a law firm, where you need, like, for every partner, you need at least 2-3 senior associates, 5-6 junior associates, which is no longer going to be the case. If like a partner has one reliable or two reliable people, irrespective of seniority, where they can kind of use these tools effectively, then you're breaking up that business structure, which is what law firms are modeled out of today.
And this is exactly why we've started Legally Wired. Legally Wired is supposed to be a platform where we look at these new trends in legal career. And also we offer opportunities for young students to explore alternate legal education. And what we mean by that is an opportunity to consistently upskill and train on the actual practice areas of law, on actual work products that clients really care about and law firms and law offices really care about.
And that's a very nice summation of what we wanted to discuss today, Mitra. So to the audience listening into this, watch out for this space for more such discussions and interesting insights in building a successful career in law. See you until then.